welcome everybody. It's Megan and Matt from Soft Solutions.
Hello.
The purpose of today's webinar is to look at upselling with 3CX. We quite often get the question, why do I need the Pro or Enterprise Edition? So we thought it was a really opportune time to look at why the additional features that are in the Pro and Enterprise solutions are so important and try and turn it into a positive selling experience. So we'll just flip through to the next slide, Matt, and look at the agenda. So the agenda for today is to have a look at upselling versus cross-selling and where the opportunities lie with 3CX. Looking a little bit wider than just the 3CX solution as well. And then we'll obviously finish with a Q&A at the end. We will record the session as per normal and upload that onto our YouTube page so that those that have registered and weren't able to make it can view, or if you want to go back and have a look at some further details. And we'll keep the Q&A open for as long as we need to as we move through the webinar.
Awesome.
All right, so upselling versus cross-selling. Most of you already know all about this. I just stole some images from 3CX that were quite cute. So upselling, as you can see with the coffee, is upselling to a mocha. Cross-selling is adding the muffin to it. So the whole point here is the opportunity within 3CX is for both. Initially, you're upselling. Don't settle for a standard edition, move up to Pro or Enterprise, and we'll look at the reasons why. Cross-selling, you're selling your services and all your expertise. Initially, there may be some hardware when you sell 3CX, and then it's your services and the ongoing running, etc. Down the track, we face situations like what we're facing now with COVID-19, where suddenly you're making sure that all your customers' users are set up remotely from home. So it's about tying VoIP into your complete product portfolio for your customers, and we'll have a look at some of those key features shortly. So these are just some stats that 3CX publish, and these are pretty standard stats industry-wide actually. The probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70%. 80% of the company's revenue typically comes from 20% of the customers. I might add from my 20-odd years of experience that 80% of the pain comes from the lower end customers as well, which I'm sure you can all relate to. It's also about adding value for your customers. It's really important to look after your customers and have them looped into full solutions. I'm a big believer and have been for many years of solution selling, and you don't want your customers going to somebody else to look for some other part of what they need for their IT solution. So locking your customers in to you, we like to say at Soft Solutions, keeping your customers sticky is a really good option. There we go. Okay, so just looking at the sales process with 3CX, so often the sales process will start with the free trial. So just to reiterate with the free trial, there's two ways of creating your free trial. You can use your unique link, which includes your partner ID for customers to download that trial, or you can create the trial for your customer within your partner portal on the try option. Now, the trial starts as 40 days of professional and then drops down to standard. So 3CX believes that 40 days is the right time period to convert a trial into a commercial sale. So it gives a good opportunity for testing out that software. Just one thing to point out is if you do have a need for a customer to have an enterprise trial, within that first day or two of the trial, you can reach out directly to Yilmaz, who is our ANZ channel manager for 3CX, and give him a case study as to why you need your customer upgraded to enterprise, and he can upgrade that trial key to enterprise for the 40 days. So sometimes that might be that customers need to check on the failover. It might be they need more web meeting seats. It could be a number of things. So just bear that in mind as well. So through the next sales process is obviously a conversion to a commercial key. There's an opportunity to upgrade the edition, and they've been trialing Pro and actually need the features of the Enterprise. There's also the opportunity to start with one size of simultaneous call count, and as required, increase that size if needed. And obviously your managed services fit around that whole solution as well. Okay, so now we're going to look at why professional enterprise. And I just want to preface this slide by saying I'm not trying to make standard appear weaker. It is obviously the entry-level 3CX solution, and there is a free license for the 8 simultaneous calls. What I'm trying to highlight here is the power that is actually involved within the professional and enterprise solution. And Matt and I are going to tag team through some of these key points around professional or enterprise. Even going right back, several years, Soft Solutions has always advocated the professional or the enterprise solution. So that's due to the functionality that has been in there. And with the release of version 16 over a year ago now, at the end of March 2019, as a lot of you would be aware, some features were removed from the standard edition so that the editions had very distinct points of differentiation. And it also gives you, as the 3CX reseller partner, the opportunity to make sure that your customer's getting the right solution for their needs. So if we just zoom through some of these key features, and this is some of the power that's actually involved in the 3CX solution right from the get-go. So call queues, that's a pretty obvious one. A lot of people need call queues, even if they're actually quite a small organisation, and that is not available in the standard, but is a stock standard feature in professional enterprise. Did you want to add anything around call queues there, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. So call queues are becoming increasingly popular because, of course, in 3CX we have ring groups and we have call queues, whereas call queues, a inbound call comes in and can actually hang about and listen to hold music until an agent is available to actually answer that call. There's some nifty functionality in there, especially around the polling strategies. So call queues in 3CX gives you the ability to have a polling strategy such as round robin, route the call to the agent with the least amount of talk time, and all the way up to enterprise with skills-based routing. So skills-based routing was requested for quite some time. It gives you the ability to intelligently cut down on the amount of inbound call flow you have, because you can say prompt with something like an IVR and ask a question and then route that call to the most qualified staff member, and that can be from a support perspective, say your level 3 techs or something like that, and all the way to your best salesperson if it's an inbound sales queue.
Fabulous. Another key feature that is available in both professional and enterprise is the call center functionality. Now, the call center functionality has become more and more powerful as the editions of 3CX have been released, and there's always little tweaks and changes and additions within the updates as well. 3CX themselves just ran a very good webinar on the call center functionality in the last week, and that is available on their website and is probably well worth a look at. But just some of the, I guess, what you would expect in the call center is we have the switchboard, the wallboard, the supervisor override. So that's great for training, or if an agent has a particularly difficult customer to deal with, that a supervisor can assist in that type of thing. You've got the standard callback, the barge in, the listen, the whisper, and then the reporting. And the reporting is getting more and more powerful as we go along, which helps organisations be able to meet the needs of their customers. So that call centre functionality is important even in some smaller customers, all the way up to the large customers, and that is the power and the beauty of 3CX, is that it's so scalable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so just around the wallboard. So back in the day, the wallboard was fairly basic, and then after a few iterations of 3CX around 12, 12.5, 14, the wallboard actually moved into the desktop soft phone client. Now we have the ability to have the 3CX web client, which is seeing increased adoption. We're starting to use it more internally in-house as well, because it means, especially with the Chrome plugins and things like that, you can just load up a web page in a browser, and you can have that acting as your web client for making calls, receiving calls, etc. But you can also have that wallboard there. So if you've got a call center or a customer with a call center, and they've got this screens up in the main area showing the call flow stats, you can actually have that just as a web browser. So that machine displaying that display can actually be a really low spec little thing. As long as it can run a web page, you can actually have a wallboard set up there. And probably the key things, as Megan said as well, is around callback, giving a caller the ability after an amount of time to say, okay, I don't want to wait in this call queue anymore. You guys are obviously pretty busy. I'll press 2 to get a callback, and then when the next agent becomes free, the system will automatically connect the agent with the caller ID that was sitting in the queue, which is really cool. The reporting is a big one there as well for seeing call statistics, and that can be broken down an extension or a queue level as well. And then those training options, so barge in, listen, and whisper. These coaching opportunities, especially for new staff, where a supervisor can be set and SLAs can be set as well against a call queue and against agents, so that the supervisor is notified and they've got that training capability in there.
Fantastic. And another key one is Office 365. So a lot of companies obviously now use Office 365. So the integration with 3CX that has been built in there is not available in the standard edition. So that can cause a little bit of frustration for some customers. But with that integration in Pro and Enterprise, we're away. I don't think we need to say anything more about that.
No, that's about it.
CRM integration. This is really, really powerful. Being able to see a phone number of who's calling you coming through is really useful. Like, I find that very useful myself if I'm in a meeting but expecting an urgent call or something like that, that you can actually see what that call is coming in because it's querying against your CRM. So we use Zoho CRM and have it integrated there. There is a lot of power with the integration, and we'll look at that a little bit further into this webinar as well. Did you want to add anything at this point, Matt?
No, that's pretty much it. And just probably a little bit of an extra point is 3CX are always building new integrations as well. So with every new service pack, typically there's something like a new integration in there as well. And that's driven a lot based off of the ideas forum on the 3CX website. So there's always the recommendation, if you do have customers with CRM systems that aren't already supported, always pop it into the ideas forum if that's something that you'd like to see in the product in future.
Absolutely. Another feature that's available in Pro and Enterprise but not in the standard edition is the ability to dial into a web conference. So most people just connect to a web meeting via the link that is provided, but you do have a dial-in option in Professional and Enterprise. So it just gives a little bit more flexibility for some people. Hotdesk, Matt, you might want to talk to that a little bit more. That's obviously a key feature.
Yep, so we're seeing Hotdesking become increasingly popular, especially with offices that are typically more fluid with an open office plan. So what Hotdesking does is it gives a person the ability to basically sit down at any phone that is set up as a Hotdesking extension, punch in their extension details and PIN, and be able to use that phone as themselves. After they're done with it, they're able to log out of the phone and just walk away. The next person comes along, they can log themselves in. So it offers a lot of fluid capabilities for open offices.
Yeah, fantastic. The hotel PBX integration that has been available as stock standard in 3CX for several versions now. It used to be an add-on years ago that you had to buy separately, but that is only available in the Professional and Enterprise, and there's some key integrations around the hotel software available there, and there's some good information on the 3CX website with the integrations around that. Makes life that much easier for the hotels that use 3CX.
Definitely.
this is a key one for you to talk about, is the option to have a custom SQDN and SMTP server in Pro and Enterprise and not have it managed by 3CX as the standard edition does.
Yeah, so this is really important. So basically from day dot, when we started doing 3CX training, I've always recommended having as a best practice network setup, having a split DNS. So having the FQDN, both externally and internally for phones, to be the same. So for example, with us, it's 3cx.softsell.co.nz. So whether a phone is sitting outside of the network or whether it's sitting inside of the network, it's speaking to that FQDN. You have that DNS server with that entry, and then it's pointing to either the internal static IP or the external static IP. So there is the option within 3CX to have a 3CX address, but notably you have to keep maintenance current. And obviously if you're using a 3CX FQDN that's provided by them, you can't have a truly split DNS setup because you can't have that 3CX DNS internally on your network. Another key thing here is SMTP server as well. Again, you need an active maintenance or subscription to utilize the 3CX SMTP server. But if you have a customer with their own Exchange or Office 365, you do need the Pro Enterprise edition to utilize that mail server fully.
So a great security function. Bridging is another key feature that is only available in Pro and Enterprise. So this is about connecting remote offices together. So Matt, maybe give a quick example of how that works really well.
Yep, definitely. So bridging is a really cool ability. As Megan noted, the main purpose of it is basically to link multiple different 3CX instances together. So you may have an Auckland office that you want to connect to a Wellington, and there may be a Christchurch office. Bridging gives you the ability to connect these systems and see presence across it as well, so very powerful. And then it scales all the way to, you may have a customer that has an office in Australia, office in the UK, an office in the States or Singapore or something like that. From 3CX, with the Pro and Enterprise, you've got the ability to link all those systems together. Excuse me. And once those systems are linked, what you can actually do is start building some intelligent call flow for outbound routes in there, and say, if I'm dialing a UK or an Oz or a Singapore number, then route it out that other system instead, because then it's only being charged as a local call. So it's most likely going to be cheaper for it to be a local call than as an international call. So it gives a lot of cost-saving capability there very, very quickly.
Yeah, exactly, and very, very powerful technology that people don't realize is just stock standard in the Pro and Enterprise edition. The other feature to look at is the call recording. So call recording is only available in Professional or Enterprise, and they are actually slightly different. So in the Pro edition, you only have 3 options for your call recording, which are all recording on, all recording off, or external calling only. Once you hit the Enterprise edition, you have the ability to be able to stop recording. So that can be very powerful for, say, a call center. Insurance is a classic where they need to read you a disclaimer statement and that type of thing, and you have to agree to it. So the stop option can be very useful there to be able to record that information. So that's a key reason that a number of customers move to Enterprise when they are working with that call center type scenario that need that functionality. If we flick onto the next slide, Matt, we'll look at just the key Enterprise. We have actually talked about most of these, but this is just a quick recap. And we're also aware that normally our bite-sized webinars only last about 15 minutes. And we knew this one was going to be a little bit longer, but we're trying to get through the powerful information as quickly as possible. So just recapping, we've just talked about the call recording. Matt's talked about the skills-based routing that is available within the Enterprise edition, which is that powerful ability to route those calls to the most appropriate people. There are some additional advanced CRM integrations in the Enterprise. And the other key thing is the inbuilt failover, which is an active-passive mode. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Matt?
Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, what it is you can have a 3CX system running and then have another system sitting on standby with a heartbeat tick going between the two, and you can specify what sort of tick that is to monitor it. And if the first system goes down, the second system will automatically spin up, so you really minimize downtime. So basically it's sitting there as 2 activations that are available in case one goes down, and you can actually put some scripting in place there as well. So say a script for after the first PBX is down, you may want to trigger off a script that talks to your external DNS and says, hey, Mr. FQDN, we need to go to a new external static IP of our backup site, because that's where our system is now going to be running. Then the system spins up and all the phones work. Absolute minimal downtime.
Absolutely, and the exciting bit of information that I can share, which is being developed by a third party, not by 3CX themselves at this point in time, is that there is a company that does a lot of customized development for 3CX globally, and they're actually working on an active failover option at the moment as well. So we're sort of watching that with keen interest. We're not sure how close that is and what the methodology will be to be able to access that, but it's exciting to see some of those features starting to be looked at around that. So, all right, so just recapping some of these upsell opportunities. So obviously, having as many of your customers on the same edition of 3CX makes your technical staff lives easier. So we have some customers that only sell professional, we have some customers that only sell enterprise, and then we have others that have a mix of customers with standard pro and enterprise. We find that those that sort of standardize for their customers find that technical capability and maintenance that little bit easier because everybody's the same. So that's one thing to consider when you're offering those options. I'm not saying that you should go to a customer and run through 10 different features of Pro and Enterprise as to why they need it, but knowing those key features that we've talked about today, you can pick out points that are pain areas for a customer and that 3CX will resolve for them by selling the professional or the enterprise solution. The simultaneous call count, as we all know, that's for internal, external calling, and you start off with the count being good, but you need to check back in with your customers and see if there's an increase required. Obviously, with the sudden change to working remotely and COVID-19, we've seen a large number of customers that have never exceeded their simultaneous call count suddenly exceed that call count, and not just in medical centres. Medical centres were a little bit of a given with this happening, but we've seen it across a huge number of businesses. So it's always a good opportunity to check back in with your customer and just see how they're going and see if there's any opportunities for you to increase that simultaneous call count. Scheduling regular check-ins with your customer to ensure everything's working as it should for their end, being able to pull in techs if required, being able to pull in team members to be able to train staff if they've suddenly had a large number, say for example a call centre's had a large number of staff turnover, the opportunity to go back in and do some chargeable training with those customers. Another thing to be in touch with your customer and to show that value as the 3CX partner. And then obviously there's the annual renewal of a subscription or a perpetual maintenance. Just recapping on the licensing, 3CX still has the 2 license options available, the annual subscription or the perpetual. The perpetual is 3 times the cost roughly of a subscription upfront, and then the ongoing maintenance drops down a little bit, so it kind of evens out after about 4 years. Subscription is the preferred method, and there is more flexibility with subscription to be able to move within the call count, etc. The other key thing to remember is that a subscription has to be kept current or it will drop. So if your customers on Pro or Enterprise have call queues, etc., and for some reason that hasn't been renewed, it will drop to a standard edition, but of course their call queues aren't working. If they've got a call queue answering their phones aren't getting answered. So really important to keep those subscriptions up to date and perpetual maintenance for those as well. Soft Solutions auto quotes 30 days ahead of a renewal. So if your license is in our system has been purchased through Soft Solutions, our system will automatically send you out a quote for that renewal, which is a great heads up that there's 30 days to get in touch with your customer and check their needs and see if there's any opportunities to change their simultaneous call count, add some more training, all those types of things. So just looking at the cross-sell opportunities, a key conversation that I have with a number of 3CX partners is not to undervalue the knowledge and services and expertise that you bring to the table. Customers value that, and I think it's a bit of a Kiwi thing that we tend to undervalue ourselves a little bit. But that knowledge and those services that you provide to your customers are of value to your customers. So you can build your service contract for the PBX around what you're providing. That can be setting expectations for your ensuring that things like their backups are occurring each day, that updates are being installed at an appropriate time when there's not team members needing to use the system. Obviously that comes under your system maintenance, checking their regular reporting, making sure that they aren't hitting their simultaneous call count limit and not realising that customers can't get through to them, ensuring that their SIP lines are renewed, all those types of things. So you can build your contract around that and don't undervalue that service that you're offering to your customer. You're doing all the legwork. Is there anything you wanted to add there, Matt?
No, that's pretty well covered. I think it's really important to keep in touch with customers. I wrote a blog article about it towards the beginning of the year, but it's always a good time to touch base, especially before renewal time, and even 3 months after the initial sale, just to make sure that everybody's getting comfortable with the system and that they're happy with the system. There's nothing worse than end user going through pain, and we can typically easily resolve that. But I think so maybe a bit of a Kiwi mentality to keep it to ourselves maybe as well.
Absolutely. So hardware is another key thing that cross-sells and fits with the IPPBX. So often that's at the initial sale point. So there's new phones, all that type of thing. But remember, there's things like firmware updates that need to occur with that hardware, and ensuring that the hardware that has been sold is actually meeting all of the client's requirements. Do they suddenly have a requirement for a couple of their sort of more senior staff needing video conference calling phones, those types of things? Do they need some headsets? You know, with people working remotely from home, is a headset an option that they need? So there's all sorts of little options there along the way just to be checking in. And hardware does have a life expectancy, and sometimes companies' needs and requirements change. So it's just a matter of being in touch with that, and you all do a great job of that. We know that. As Matt talked about before, just, you know, rechecking in about training. So often at the initial sale point, you do a basic overview of the system, then you might go back and do some advanced training with some key people like advocates and power users within an organisation who become the go-to people. Looking at that call centre functionality, at the reporting, how to read those reports, how to action those reports, setting their SLAs around what their requirements are for managing their customers and that type of thing. So there's all sorts of things that you can add your expertise, your voice, your knowledge. And if you need help from us to upskill around any of those points, you can reach out to myself and Matt, and we can walk you through some of that functionality. More so Matt, because he's more into the back end of the 3CX system, but we're certainly here to help you with those opportunities. And just looking a little wider, I alluded to this earlier on with my big solution sales background. Do you just provide work for your customers, or do you provide more? Most of our customers, we know, provide more. Wi-Fi is an excellent fit. Access points, Wi-Fi portable phones that are coming out from Grandstream now. We have some customers that actually don't touch an existing Wi-Fi that maybe someone else is managing, and they put in a new Wi-Fi with access points for the portable phone. So there's all sorts of ways around those types of things. Matt, you might want to talk to the backup solution, because that's a key thing in making sure those backups are happening.
Yeah, making sure backups are happening is really, really important. It's always, you know, say, oh, make sure you have a backup, but yes, have a backup, have it off site, because I handled support for 3CX for some time, and it is very crushing to hear when a system, say on an old HP microserver, has died and there's no backup to restore from, and everything has to be rebuilt from scratch. It's not fun for us. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for the end user. So backup with 3CX, with the recent update 5, it can go up to Google Buckets now. So it's very, very easy to get these backups off site, set them to run daily, and you'll be laughing with that extra security in place.
Absolutely. In terms of CRM integration, we do come across customers here in New Zealand that have some very specific requirements beyond what is available stock standard and beyond what's available for our key partners, our 3CX resellers here in New Zealand, to develop for them. There is a global expert company that we talked about earlier that can create customized requirements. That is what their business is building customizations around 3CX, and we can certainly make introductions for you and your customer to them and help you start that process to have those conversations. Just because 3CX doesn't currently do something doesn't mean it's not capable of being integrated in some way. We just have to start asking the right people and the right questions. So again, that's an opportunity to have a wider conversation with your customer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our slightly longer bite-sized webinar.
A bigger bite.
Much bigger bite, but we're happy to take your questions. Or if you think of questions after this, feel free to reach out to Matt or I directly, or voip@upsell.co.nz, and we can certainly assist you. We will upload this recording to YouTube, so it will be there as key information for our 3CX partners. So have we got any questions coming in there, Matt?
Not at this stage, no. First question. Oh, lots of questions. All right, give me a sec, guys. I've got to expand this pane.
Just so that you're aware, obviously we're in remote locations, and Matt's logged in as the master and I'm logged in as presenter, so I can't actually see your questions, but we will endeavour to answer them.
Okay, so CRM integration. Can 3CX integrate with Microsoft Teams? Does that work well?
Not at this point. However, if you read the latest roadmap from Nick Gillea at 3CX, it was just released in April. We have shared that via our LinkedIn page and in our VoIP update email. He's actually committed to looking at integration with Teams. When they first launched version 16, I got up crazy. I think it was 5 a.m. New Zealand time, and they launched it. And Nick Gillea and Stefan categorically said they would not be integrating with Teams. However, in the latest roadmap, they have committed to looking at that further. So it's a bit of a watch space one.
Cool, that seems to be about it.
No other questions in there, Matt?
No. Okay. Oh.
Question firing in.
I've got a beginning of a question, which does bridging, but I can't see anything else after that. Does bridging require an additional license per PBX? So bridging links to another 3CX system, so you will have another license sitting at that remote site, yes.
No other questions there?
No, doesn't seem so. Again,
okay,
you can always reach us on VoIP.
Absolutely. VoIP@softsoul.co.nz will get through to us, and we'll ensure that we come back to you with that information. You can reach out to Matt and I by phone as well. Thank you very much for joining us today for this webinar. And as we say, thank you. It was a little longer than normal, but I think it was valuable information. And we hope you got something out of it, even if it was to refresh just some of those key things. The other vital piece of information that you should always have in your toolkit is remember the comparison chart that is available on the 3CX website, which shows what's available in each edition of 3CX. And the only other thing that I would add, which will be coming out in our newsletter tomorrow, is with 3CX's web meeting, for the next 3 months, they have increased the number of capacity per edition. So standard edition's gone from 25 capacity to 100. The professional has gone from 100 to 250 capacity, and the enterprise from 250 to 500. And that is for 3 months with the COVID-19 situation and so many people working remotely. So just bear that in mind. At the moment, there is some extra capacity available for all customers of 3CX. So thank you again for joining us, and we will bring you another slightly shorter bite-sized webinar next month. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.